Please welcome Patrick Criteser, outgoing chair of the Oregon Business Plan and president and CEO of Tillamook County Creamery Association.
Thank you. What a great way to start the day. I still have goosebumps. You probably do too. Welcome to the 17th Annual Leadership Summit. For the past 3 years, I've had the honor of serving as the chair of the Oregon Business Plan and the host of this summit. Today, I'm going to be passing the leadership mantle to a good friend and a very capable Oregon leader, Joth Ricci, president of Dutch Bros Coffee. But before I do, I'd like to take this moment to reflect for a moment on the business plan and the summit, and to share a few of my thoughts about the work ahead. That this is the 17th Annual Leadership Summit is a testament to your enduring commitment as Oregon leaders. We gather at this summit every year not to pursue narrow personal agendas, but to think broadly about how we can work together to grow Oregon's economy and to make Oregon a great place to live and to thrive for everyone who calls this great state home. We know of no other state where business leaders, elected leaders, educators, and community leaders gather like we do here and like we have for so many years. Over the years, we've tackled some big issues: education, healthcare, transportation, forestry, land use, much more. And often, we've found consensus and a path to direct action. Not always, of course. It would be less than genuine for me to say that while during my tenure as chair of the Oregon Business Plan, we formed consensus on how to deal with Oregon's fiscal policy issues. During my tenure, we largely turned the business plan and this summit to the topics of taxes and pensions. Candidly, not exactly what I signed up for when I took the role, but we felt like it was critically important that we discuss together how to adequately and responsibly fund critical or vital public services, education, and healthcare in our state. These are never easy issues, and certainly at times raise controversy. In an atmosphere of many different strongly held views, often not in alignment with our own, I'm proud of the fact that the business community stayed at the table and worked with elected leaders on solutions. While these issues are probably not permanently behind us, we do have this moment to take a step back, refocus the business plan, and think about how we work together to grow Oregon's economy to ensure that everyone benefits from our prosperity and to create the Oregon that we would all like to see. Now's a good time to do so. We're about a decade removed from the 2010 summit, where we presented a refreshed business plan, and together we set an agenda and a set of goals for the coming decade. It's a good time to think about what we've accomplished together and the work left to do. Fundamentally, there are many trends and challenges facing us in the coming years that are likely to change the very nature of the work we do and the way we live. And we're now in one of the longest economic expansions in American history. At some point, the good times will end. And it's important for us to be thinking today about how we're preparing for the inevitable economic downturn. I think we all agree that livable, thriving communities filled with healthy, well-educated people are critical to a growing, healthy economy. But I hope we also agree that a growing, healthy economy is necessary for us to support families and create the kind of healthy, successful communities we would all like to see in every corner of our state. This past year, a team of business leaders and OBC staff working for the Oregon Business Plan reviewed our state's economic performance. We surveyed business leaders about their observations on what it's like to do business in Oregon. We talked to economic development professionals, and we heard from futurists, one of whom you're going to hear from this morning, about some of the major trends taking shape. Today, we're launching a year-long conversation to examine the issues and questions that arose from this work. And we're inviting all of you to come onto this journey with us. By the end of next year, at this summit, at the next summit, our goal is to present a refreshed business plan that reflects the perspectives, concerns, and vision of our business association partners, our elected leaders, educators, community leaders. This summit is the first day of a year-long conversation about how we work together for the future of Oregon. As I transition out of this role, I do so with gratitude and hope. Serving as the business plan chair over these past 3 years has given me an opportunity to engage with Oregon, the state that I love, in so many different ways. I'd like to thank, for their leadership and their commitment, I'd like to thank Duncan Wise, Jeremy Rogers, Andrew Desmond, and the rest of the OBC team. I'd like to thank our business association partners, OBI and PBA and others. To thank the many business leaders that served on the Oregon Business Plan Steering Committee over these last 3 years, and to thank all of you who have contributed to and supported the business plan's work over the last 3 years. There's no question our state will be faced with significant challenges, and there will be trends that disrupt our economy. The question is, how will we work together to turn those challenges into opportunities? How will we create a more inclusive economy and contribute to the move to a more inclusive society? How will we close the opportunity gap for our children? And how will we stop the cycle of poverty that has so many of our fellow Oregonians in its grip? One thing I'm sure of, that we'll be much more successful working together like we do here at this summit and throughout the year with the business plan than if we succumb to the finger pointing and the tribalism that's dividing our nation. I believe Oregon can serve as a model for how we work better together. In this role, I've seen firsthand that we agree on a lot more than we disagree on. And I'm leaving the role with hope that we can come together to grow Oregon's economy and to create the Oregon that we would all like to see. This idea, working together for the economy and for all Oregon citizens, is what I see as essentially the point of the Oregon Business Plan, and why I see this summit as a hopeful endeavor and one that's critically necessary for our future. Working together to address the challenges and opportunities of the future will require strong, grounded, collaborative leadership. And I can think of no one better to lead that conversation going forward than my friend Joth Ricci. Please join me in welcoming to the stage President of Dutch Bros Coffee and the incoming chair of the Oregon Business Plan, Joth Ricci.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. I must say that I am following in some pretty big footsteps here. The first thing I want to do is thank Patrick for the opportunity to deal with taxes and pension. And actually, it's a 2-year assignment, and it took him 3. So thank you for doing that.
That's true.
Appreciate that. But not only, I think Patrick is really one of the great company leaders that we have in the state. I mean, not only for what he does with the work in the state, but also the work that he does around the country to really support the state of Oregon. With the brand Tillamook, you can't escape the fact that you represent Oregon in everything that you do. Sending Tillamook over the last 5 years to growth that many companies only dream of, along with leading the Oregon Food Bank and serving on the Oregon Community Foundation. This guy's been busy, but he's put his heart and soul into the state of Oregon, and I think that before we let you leave the stage one last time, how about one more round of applause for Patrick?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so they asked me to introduce myself, and I want to say hello. I'm a 4th-generation Oregonian. Original settlers helped settle the town of Hood River, and been a proud Oregonian. I grew up in Corvallis. I'm an Oregon Stater. Go Beavs, for my Beaver audience out there. I've had the opportunity to lead 4 different companies over the last 20 years in Oregon. And what's interesting about my journey, and really what I find to be a representative of Oregon wherever I travel around the country, is that when I started working in the early 90s, the question was, where is Oregon? Because they knew Washington and California, but it was that piece of where is Oregon. When I was running Columbia Distributing, and we would have all of a sudden craft beer hit the scene, and Oregon started to become known in the beer world as this craft beer space, and everybody wanted kind of like, hey, what's going on there? Like, that's pretty interesting. You guys are way ahead of everybody else. Then fast forward to get the opportunity to run Stumptown Coffee, which was the coffee presented at most 5-star restaurants around the country. Everybody was saying, wait, what's happening in Oregon? I hear a lot of great things. What's going on there? And then had a chance to run Adelsheim Vineyard and be part of the wine industry. And again, Oregon's known for world-class wines and something that everybody loves. And then most recently being a part of Dutch Bros Coffee. In the last 5 years, I can tell you that in my travels around the country, Oregon's on the map. And not only are they on the map as far as the great beverages, which I get to represent all over the place, but also are we on the map of what we're doing, how we're leading, and where we're going. And I think that when you think about the last 20 years and the progress that we've made as a state and how we've hit the radar as a state, now it's a great chance to look to the next decade ahead and participate in how we're going to be thought of as innovative leaders, how we're going to be thought of around policy, how we're going to be thought of around our business climate. Where does all this go? So I've been lucky enough over the years to be asked to help lead and change companies, bring new strategy to companies. And so when Patrick called and Duncan called to ask if I would accept the opportunity to do this for the state, I couldn't think of anything better to do. Because I love this place. And I love this place not just because it's a place that's given me the values that I've grown up with, but it's also an opportunity to set the table for our children. And I think for everybody in the room, if you're here as a leader and you're interested in the state, you're here because you're setting the table for what's going to happen to the next generation. And that's how I look at this. That's how I look at this body of work. And I'm excited to lead on behalf of the Oregon Business Council and CEOs around the state to help think about our business, our economy, and where we're heading. Because it's an exciting time. 10 years ago feels like a long time ago. 10 years ahead, it's our job. We get a chance to set the table. So let me tell you about the day, because we've got a pretty cool day ahead. Today kind of meets some of the best leaders in the country hit the stage. You're going to hit a little bit of a TEDx talk somewhere along the way. We're going to hear from our state leaders, and then you'll be able to kind of fan out and find a topic that you would find very interesting to learn about. In some places, you'd have to go to 4 different events to do that. We're bringing it all to you here today as one. So excited to be here today and a part of that. So in the past year, as Patrick mentioned, a small team of us were empowered to think about the long game. On the front of your program, we talk about the long game. We crunch numbers, we talk to futurists, and we really begin to think about our future. And so the table's really been set for this conversation today. We refreshed economic strategy, a business plan that we need to address. What emerged from this work was a set of 5 overarching questions. So if you open up your program, everybody's got a program. There were 5 overarching questions that are inside that the first front of the program. Number 1, how do we ensure that prosperity is broadly shared? Oregon's a young state. Over the last 10 years, we've seen so much growth. We've got Oregons from all. How do we think about it for Oregonians from all communities, backgrounds, and various regions around our state? We tend to focus on the city in our backyard, but how do we think about the balance of the state? How do we improve our economic competitiveness in a cluster performance, trade, technology innovation, infrastructure, land, and regulatory policy? All those things touching all 4 corners of where we live. How do we adapt to a radically different future of work? Meeting our education goals, adapting to new technologies, preparing for artificial intelligence. 10 years ago, artificial intelligence was a word used in labs. Now it's something that's a daily use for everybody. How do we adapt to that? How do we grow yet protect or enhance our quality of life? As an Oregonian, you respect the fact that this quality of life that you get from the state. How do we think about improving that for generations ahead. We talk about congestion. We talk about housing supply. We talk about affordability. All those things that bring us this greater quality of life as to why we choose to live in Oregon. How do we adapt to a changing climate, including how we manage our forests, our water supplies, et cetera, et cetera. Scan the agenda today. It's packed. You're going to get a lot of content thrown at you, and it's going to be a fun day. So we have these questions, either addressing them head on or shining a light or providing context for why they're being asked in the first place. It's important to note, however, that this list of questions isn't exhaustive. One of the things we did today took a little different twist. So as Patrick mentioned, we're in this phase of coming out of a decade into a new decade. We're doing something new today. We're going to ask you to participate in the questions. As a leader and something that you care about, we want to hear from you. You're either a leader in your business, in public office, or your community, and we can't think of a better audience than what we've gathered today to brainstorm about some of the big questions we should ask about Oregon's future. So over the course of the day, we'd like to tap your minds and ask you, what are the big questions we should be asking about Oregon's future? I'll be prompting you throughout the day. So now, it's up on the screen. If you are mobile or text challenged, there's somebody at your table that understands how to do this, okay? So we are bringing a little technology to the summit. So we want you to text OBP long game to 22333. Once you join, then text in your message. We'll be gathering these texts over the course of the day, and I'll be referring to some of the questions that you bring forward from the audience today. So please participate. It's your choice, but we'd love to have you participate in the day, and I'll be referring back to those over the course of the day. As I mentioned, we've got a jammed agenda. I get to be your host today, so my job from here on is basically to keep us on time and moving forward. I'll do my best with that. So we're going to start today with a power-packed panel. So to begin, we're going to hear from our distinguished senators, Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley, about the major issues they see ahead of us in the next decade. Senator Wyden will stay on stage to share his thoughts as a topic that's vital importance to the Oregon economy, trade. We hear about trade all the time. We've asked Senator Wyden to expand on that. Trade is a critical success of the Oregon's traded sector, a key focus for the Oregon business plan. Businesses that ship goods and services across the borders draw on new wealth that circulate through the economy. Ensuring that the Oregon businesses have access to markets is key to our future prosperity. Following the senators, we'll kick it over to John Tapania, president of Eco Northwest, and David Williams, policy director of Opportunity Insights, to provide an update on our economic performance over the last decade, providing a special focus on how well Oregon has done in creating an inclusive economy. The panel immediately following that will stay on this thread, considering the question of how do we make our economy more inclusive? In a conversation moderated by Ron Saxton, the Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Peace Health and the Chair of OBC Poverty Task Force.